Joining me now to discuss it is the man who broke the story, New South Wales political reporter at The Australian, Alexi Demetriadi. Alexi, thank you for your time. You broke the original story about these Islamic clerics and, of course, this follow-up today. Take us through the rationale from police, because I'm staggered, given that they're using phrases like kill the Jews, given that the day the first of these preachers went out publicly in Sydney was the day after the October 7 atrocities, long before Israel had even launched a missile. This was celebrating the death of 1,200 women, children, babies and men.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and thanks for having me on. I think I was on this show maybe a month ago when we broke the story at The Australian about these sermons, these clerics, and all the comments that you showed earlier to your viewers. We got it confirmed yesterday by both state and federal police that they'd investigated the sermons and the speeches. They'd sought legal advice, and both from a Commonwealth perspective and the AFP, the comments, the speeches didn't breach anything of the Commonwealth Code. And then here in New South Wales, the state police said that they'd also sought legal advice, and the comments that were contained in those sermons also didn't reach the threshold of criminality. The rationale behind it is, and this is something that we have covered before, and it's something that a lot of us here who are covering state politics and covering, I guess, the domestic side of the crisis, is that particularly the state-based laws, particularly both state-based and the Commonwealth laws, there's a very high threshold for criminality. It's also a very narrow definition of what does meet that definition for them police to lay charges.
Look, I'm surprised by this because I have, in my previous life in government, listened and certainly read plenty of transcripts coming out of some of these mosques. It's not just Jews that offend some of them. It's anyone who is not Muslim, particularly Christians are attacked. I just am surprised, given that we've had cases of Israel Folau, where he quoted Bible scripture and got himself into trouble.
Yeah, we've got a story in the paper tomorrow, and we touched upon it in our story today. One of the things, there's a lot of outrage both in the community here in NSW, the Jewish community, but also across the political spectrum, in that this is probably the police dropping their investigations into these two clerics. It's probably the first or maybe the most high-profile practical example post-October 7 of whereby the existing laws are really being tested with practical application. So when we reported that the comments, the sermons hadn't reached that criminality threshold, the anger and the uproar, I think, is very much aimed at the situation we have, whereby it appears that the existing legislation we have isn't powerful enough, isn't broad enough. Rather than that, But
Alexi, let me just jump in there. I mean, I don't think anyone's complaining about the police. They're complaining about the laws the police have to operate under. But what about all those who stood outside the Opera House and chanted "Gas the Jews"? I'm not aware of any arrests or further action there either, unless you tell me I'm wrong.
As part of, I was there on October the 9th and at the scenes of the Opera House, of course, reporting, and it was pretty striking and shocking scenes. After that, NSW Police launched Operation Shelter, which is their kind of catch-all response and I guess strike force, both to the scene at the Opera House and also moving forward in relation to any pro-Palestine rallies or anti-Semitic incidents. Police have made arrests both at the Opera House and thereafter. However, in relation to, I believe, alleged common assault or anti-Semitic incidents is after October the 9th. However, they are still investigating the footage of that alleged, chants of "Gas the Jews." We understand from a logistical perspective, it's particularly hard because there was such a large crowd, and because the force, and I'm assuming they're using other avenues as well, they're scouring through footage to try and identify both those chants, but also to pinpoint an exact person who may have shouted it, which would allow them then to charge. We've covered it.
And presumably they've got their faces uncovered. That's the other thing they need too, because part of the problem is they're turning up with their faces covered at these rallies. Well, Alexi, stay across it. We'll come back to you if there's more to report, but I don't want to drop it, particularly the issue of the clerics. Well done.